Yamuna Chira Madhava, Srimad Bhagavatam ki Srila Prabhupada ki Sri Gaurnita ki Gaur Premanand. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Read from the. I don't know what the chapter is. Balaram's pilgrimage. So, as you normally do, go ahead and pass the mic around. It'll be good to go back and forth, left to right, instead of all left and all right, or all right and all left, whatever. Two words of each, as you like, but yeah. Let's start.
Lord Krishna vanquished every brute who put the earth in pain, except for some Lord Balaram was destined to contain. At this time, though, Lord Balaram was touring holy sites, for Yudhishthir and Duryodhan, his friends, were set to fight. Instead of taking sides when his two cousins were at odds, Lord Balaram held rites to honor ancestors and gods. He went to holy tirthas, rivers, temples, and at last, Naimisharanya forest, where the sages had amassed.
The sages recognized the Lord and stopped their sacrifice to stand and bow, a greeting that is proper and concise. However, Romaharshana, infected with conceit, ignored the Lord, remaining in his elevated seat. Lord Balaram was outraged. Romaharshana, you see, possessed of all assembled the most common pedigree. Not only was he scornful by remaining in his seat, his sitting place was higher than the sages, saints, and priests.
Lord Balaram said, due to lower birth and swollen head, this fool dishonors others. Such a leader should be dead. He may read many scriptures, but his character is such that all his learn is in his head. His heart remains untouched. Her mission is relieving earth of sinful hypocrites, pretending to be pious while refusing to submit to Brahmins, God, or any other person, great or small. A cheater such as this is the most sinful fool of all.
Despite the fact that Balaram was finished taking lives, the time for Ramaharshana's demise had now arrived. So Balaram just touched him with a single blade of grass, and Ramaharshana fell down in terminal collapse. The sages cried, "Alas, alas, O Balaram our lord, your killing of this person is exceedingly untoward. We honored Ramaharshana by giving him his seat and promised him protection till our yajna was complete."
Lord Balaram replied, "Of course." Huh?
It's halfway through the knowingly you killed.
Oh. Unknowingly you killed the Brahmin we chose to anoint, though we fault you for nothing. Lord, please hear our simple point. No scripture binds you. You are God himself, we understand, and yet you atone for this. You'd help the common man. Lord Balaram replied, "Of course, I'll gladly make amends. Prescribe for me whatever right the scripture recommends. Just say the word and you'll see Ramaharshana revive, fulfilling your assurance that he would live and thrive."
The sages spoke among themselves and answered all as one. "O Lord, your act should stay intact, let nothing be undone." The Lord replied, "The Vedas teach the one takes birth again, and as one's own son, so let the Brahmin son fill in for him." The son, Sutta Goswami, was at once installed to sit and led the sacrifice with all his father's benefits. But Balaram requested, "Sages, tell me your desire," and it still appears atonement of some kind should be required.
The sages said, "A demon named Balwala is so cruel, his spoils are sacrificed by throwing rolling passing stone. Please kill that sinful demon, then throughout the coming year remain on pilgrimage. Thus your renown shall preserve. Persevere. Before too long, a wind arose infused with noxious smells. Balwala showered pus and stool by use of mystic spell. He then appeared in person with a trident in his hand, intent on driving holy sacrifices from the land.
Balava looked exactly like a hill of carbon black. His molten copper beard and top knot glowed as he attacked. Lord Balaram observed his horrid fangs and furrowed brow, and called at once his fearsome club and demon-crushing plow. One second, I need to look at the book. His plow snagged Balava as he flew across the sky. Lord Balaram then smashed his club between the demon's eyes. His forehead cracked in gushing blood. Balava looked just like a crimson mountain crashing down, assailed by lightning strikes.
An attempt at diplomacy. The sages blessed Lord Balaram and praised his strength and skill. They bathed him as the gods bathed Indra when Vritra was killed. They next presented garlands of unfading blooms and leaves, as well as first-rate silken clothing set with jewelry. The sages then gave Balaram permission to depart. His pilgrimage, begun without the aid of horse or cart, took him by foot to India's most sacred holy sites. At every stop, the Lord took back and honored every rite.
He traveled so extensively that months and months went past. Concluding his atonement, Balaram was told at last that nearly every soldier in the Kuru civil war had died in Kurukshetra and would burden earth no more. Since Duryodhan, who Balaram supported, had survived, the Lord went on to Kurukshetra, bent on saving lives. He found the sons of Pandu had as well survived the war. They offered him obeisances, but then said nothing more.
At that time, Duryodhan and Bhima, fighting with their clubs, were settling the conflict with each other in flesh and blood. Though Balaram trained Duryodhan, he wanted neither dead. Attempting to break up this closing fight, he stood and said, "You two are nearly equals in your bludgeon fighting skill. Since one has strength and one technique, why get each other killed? I do not see how either of you stand to win this test. So why not put your clubs down now and stop at my request?"
When Duryodhan and Bhima couldn't set aside their hate, Lord Balaram thought Krishna had some reason for their fate, since neither was agreeable to let the other live. The Lord went on to Dvarka to visit relatives. Returning to Naram Saranya, Balaram declared to all the saints and sages holding sacrifices there that he would join their sacrifice. What's more, he told his friends, my long career of warfare has at last come to an end.
Lord Balaram blessed everyone assembled in that place with spiritual perception that transcended time and space. They saw Lord Balaram pervading everything, and then they saw Lord Balaram holding the universe within. According to the Vedic rites, Lord Balaram took part in rituals a common man would use to cleanse his heart. Encircled by his family and closest friends that day, he looked as splendid as the moon surrounded by its rays.
Lord Balaram's deluding powers make the common man think he is common too, and this exactly suits his plan. Yet one who simply hears of Balaram's divine pursuits becomes adored by Krishna, whose response is absolute.
Sri Chaitanya Manavishram Stavitram Indraputane Swayam Bhakadamaya Swaha Vancha Kalpachman Yashtra Kivasi Yavacha Paditana Bhavini Vobhishani. So there's about 3 different topics that could be discussed, but I haven't decided which one to talk on yet. I brought stuff for one topic, and I have stuff for another, and then the third occurred to me while reading this. So, any suggestions, any requests? What strikes you in this path? What strikes you here? From hearing about Balaram, yes. Yeah, nonchalantly. Okay, so that was the one topic. The one topic is how Balaram assisted Krishna in Paritranaya Sadhanam Vinashaya Chadushkatam, in establishing religious principles, re-establishing religious principles in his appearance. Part of the reason for his appearance. So this is quite an astonishing event where gathering of persons for a higher purpose, and they usually elect somebody to sit on the Vyasa seat and to lead the sacrifice. And in this case, it was a sacrifice. And it was Ramaharshan who was qualified to do it. But he had a fault. And his fault was to disregard the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And this very feature of Ramaharshan was also there in Duryodhana, but in a different way. So we may get to that. But Balaram, to establish that when an exalted person enters the assembly, when an exalted person enters into your midst, you must show respect. So he was teaching by this example that it's a little upset when he walked in, and everybody stood up. And a similar event happened with Lord Shiva and his father-in-law. A similar event happened. And so these things happen, and we learn from them that there's always a time and a place for everything. So there's a time and a place to follow, you could say very strictly, a right or a rule or a regulation that this must be done at this time. But there are exceptions to those rules sometimes. Prabhupada even one time said that
if you are worshiping the deity, like doing an arti for the deity, and a guest enters into the temple, you may stop the worship and go attend to the guest, because that was a higher principle. So this is what the Lord and his devotees, they are constantly bringing us to this understanding that we must always search for the higher principle. What is the higher principle? Not that, oh, I've been elected and therefore everyone is under me. And so no matter who comes in, I am speaking Bhagavatam, so therefore I am like Bhagavatam. I am in Vyasa's seat. I can say whatever I want, no, there are higher principles. If somebody comes in that deserves respect, deserves a greeting, then we must do that. And so the search for the higher principle is something that you could say could be debated, or what is the higher principle? But the highest principle is that which will be pleasing to Krishna, Anusilanam. Those things that Krishna Anusilanam will follow into Krishna's pleasure. And so Krishna is very pleased when he sees his devotees worship, when he sees his expansion worship, when he sees this Harinam Sankirtan going on. He's very pleased by this. And so those are our higher principles, you could say, we should strive for. And when we get too covered up, you could say covered by the astute attraction and attachment to the rules and regulations that one uses. We use the rules and regulations to keep us nicely on the path of devotional service, but it's not that the guardrails or the scaffolding or those things are the permanent thing. What is the intent of the activity? What is the guiding principle of what we are doing? That is the focus. So Rupa Goswami kindly tells us that Niya Magraha, don't be too attached to those strictures or those specific rules that we must do this, we must do that. If you lose sight of the goal of it, because being a pujari in my earlier days in the Krishna conscious movement, you become very aware that there are very strict rules in pujari seva, in the worship of the deity. It must be very carefully done. And Prabhupada stressed that. He stressed two things, although there's a million things that could be stressed. And he said, if I told you the million things, you would faint. But he stressed two things, cleanliness and timeliness. Those two things he stressed. So, but again, there are millions of things that will make us faint if we go through all those different things that we must do in the process of deity worship. And so if we just start thinking, okay, and again, some of these things are good to start with, like, oh, how do I offer an arti? Oh, okay. You offer the incense 4 times the Lord is 2 times a name, 7 times around them. But then if you just get attached, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 1, 2, then that's kind of losing what the purpose of that act is. The act is to help guide us into doing the seva, into doing the service. But then the mind and the intent must be focused on Krishna. That's what's called in Sanskrit the Bhava Rupa and the Chaita Rupa. The Bhava Rupa is what we are doing. What is the offering? What is our emotional input into this activity? What is it that we're doing? What is the intent? What is the focus? And the Chaita Rupa is the action, the external side of it.
Again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, it looks like this person is very good at deity worship. But if he's thinking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or he's thinking, well, I can't wait till I get done with this so I can get that Mahaprasad. You know, that's a whole different action where somebody's like, wow, Krishna, this is called whatever the name of your favorite incense is, you know, Vrindavan flower. I think, of course, there is no such thing as a Vrindavan flower, but here's this. Do you like this today? Do you like it? Do you smell it wafting? Are you appreciating this? You know, that's the move. So when Ramaharshan, he was just attached to the numbers. I am the sitting on the seat. I am on the high seat, and no matter what, I am in charge here. He was attached to that. But when the higher principle of understanding that a guest, and not only a guest, but an exalted Supreme Personality of Godhead guest comes in, oh, I should act a little different. I need to depart from the numbers in this instance, at least, and offer my respects. Otherwise, trouble happens. Yeah, he got in trouble. He very mystically, did it say the action with the blade of grass? Balaram, yeah.
Thank you for the explanation. I'm a little bit confused about this pastime because it's like, so Ramaharshan, he was the lowest born and he was like a hypocrite who was really attached to, you know, the numbers and the position. And yet the sages who seemed, you know, nice enough, or seemed kind of like devotees, they elected him to that, like they chose him to be in that position. And they said, okay, you're going to be protected until this is over. And then Lord Balaram comes in and he's like, well, I'm not really into killing people anymore. And then he just like kills, you know, the head of a sacrifice. It seems very like kind of strange and difficult to understand.
Krishna's activities are very mystical, very mysterious. But yeah, so I don't know the specifics. Prabhupada Priya, do you remember the specifics of why Ramaharshan was selected? The microphone is behind you.
Yeah, so the way the Bhagavatam tells it is that when Srila Vyasadeva divided up the Vedas into 4, and then after he wrote the Puranas and the Mahabharata, which was called the 5th Veda, so then he entrusted each of those branches of knowledge to particular disciples. So Ramaharshana Sutta was entrusted with the Puranas, and therefore he was like the head of the Puranic school of knowledge. And because Srimad Bhagavatam is a Purana, then he was sitting on the seat to speak the Bhagavat Purana. That was like he was the head man to do it. So he was like the obvious choice because he was the person who was specifically entrusted by Vyasadeva to take care of the Puranic knowledge and to teach it. So that it was kind of like, it was just a no-brainer that he was going to be the one, despite his lack of actual personal qualification, because he had the position and he had been entrusted.
Thank you. Yeah, so there's a little bit of you could say history there that he was entrusted for it, but he didn't fulfill what he was supposed to do. And similarly, so many great personalities have this problem. Brahma has had this problem. Forgot that Krishna's God and stole the power. Indra forgets sometimes. And so no matter what it is we're entrusted to do, we should again always remember the guiding principle. And so but then Balaram, the other side of your question, well, why did Balaram? He was supposed to have given up killing. Why did, again, he's come to establish that this is the right way to act. And I think it's also confusing when toward the end of this chapter where Balaram seems to have this affection to this personality who, you know, as you know, just let's say objective hearers that we're just kind of hearing for the first time, that we've never heard like a good thing about Duryodhana, right? But somehow or other, Balaram had affection for him.
So I'm thinking about this a little bit. Why did Balaram have so affection? So there are a number of things. Some of it is from history that when all the Kuru dynasty, the sons of Pandu and the sons of Dhritarashtra were engaged in military science and learning military, Duryodhana went to Balaram as a pupil that, oh, you please teach me the gut of the club, how to fight with a club. And so naturally there was an affection between teacher and student. But it's described that although Duryodhana, his affection for the guru, and this kind of heightens that there's false affection, you could say. His affection for the guru was to attain something, but not specifically like that Balaram, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, I want to worship you and I want to do whatever is favorable in your service. No, I want to get from. So he was, but Balaram, being so merciful, being so magnanimous, he had affection for him because he was a student. Oh, not too many others came to me to learn Gada or to learn the club. I'm going to give affection. So that affection that Balaram had for Duryodhana was not necessarily reciprocated by Duryodhana. So there was a little difference there. We should understand that. But then, because the beginning of the chapter says that Balaram chose not to fight. And why did he choose not to fight? Didn't want to take sides. Why?
He had people that he had affectionate relationships with on both sides.
People? Which people? Which person? Krishna. Because Krishna had chosen a side, Balaram, although his affection was for Duryodhana, his affection for Duryodhana went before this as well. He wanted to marry Subhadra to Duryodhana. Why? Why did he have? Again, there's this relationship between the two. And although Duryodhana was in the Garga Samhita, it says Duryodhana is a manifestation of Kali Yuga or demon Kali. He was specifically come to start the Kali Yuga, almost practically speaking, representative of Kali. Still, Balaram had affection for him. Causes, you could say causes. We can't fully understand why, but because what does Krishna say? So now we have to take, that's Balaram's side. He had affection for Duryodhana, and he would not fight because of Krishna. Was going to fight, and you could never fight against Krishna. Again, the prime focus. But then on Krishna's side, Krishna says, Samoham Sarvabhuteshu. Name Dvesha Stana Priya. I'm not envious. I don't consider one person dear over another person. They're all somehow, to all I am equal. But next line, Ye bhajanti tumam bhaktya. To those who bhajan, those who are in bhajan, those who are worshiping me, those who, in what? What kind of worship? Is it just the 1, 2, 3, 4? Is it that type of worship? No. Me bhaktya, with love, with devotion. To them, oh, what does he do? Mai. They are in me. They become in me. And so what does in me mean? Because they think, well, what does that mean? Do we like go inside of Krishna? Is there a merging? No, it means that their consciousness is always on Krishna. Always on Krishna. And this we've been studying in Saranagati as Rupa Goswami's ultimate advice to all followers of Lord Chaitanya. My ultimate advice is that 24 hours a day, engage your mind, engage your activities in thinking of Krishna, hearing Krishna's pastimes, engaging in his service. In this way, you go on pilgrimage.
wow, it's really just automatically goes into the rest of the chapter. That way you go on pilgrimage. And the pilgrimage, what is the result of pilgrimage? You're always you're always within Krishna. And so, and is it that Krishna, okay, you're in Krishna. No, he says, Chapyaham. Teshu Chapyaham. I am also thinking of them. So, although Duryodhana and Arjuna arrived at Dwarka at the same time, Samoham Sarvabhuteshu, Krishna was willing to be equal to them. One went to the lotus feet of Krishna, May Bhaktya, Bhajanti May Bhaktya, and one went to the face of Krishna. So Krishna said, okay, I've seen Duryodhana first. What do you want? I will give you two things. You have two choices. I will give myself, but I'm not fighting. That's one. Or I'll give you this Narayana, they're called the Narayanas, this segment of his army were called the Narayana, very fierce Vrishni fighters. And I can't remember the number, thousands, hundreds of thousands, maybe not Akshihini. Huh?
19 Akshanis.
Well, it couldn't be because there was only 19 in the whole battle of Kurukshetra. But there was a lot, a lot. We could say a lot. And so immediately Duryodhana thought, well, okay, Krishna, not going to fight hundreds, thousands, whatever, warriors. I'll take the warriors. And so, but Arjuna, oh, he was probably sweating a little bit. Don't choose Krishna. Oh, good. I'll take Krishna. So he took Krishna, although he wasn't going to fight. So Krishna, this is his quality, this is his characteristic, that those who Bhajanti Meba, those who worship me with devotion, with love, I become part of them. And then I am always thinking, Chapyaham, I am always thinking of them, always thinking of their welfare. Although Samoham Sarvabhuteshu, I'm equal to all. If Duryodhana would have asked for me, I would have gone with Duryodhana. I would have been equal. I would, anybody who comes and approaches Krishna, Krishna will take. He never says, no, you cannot come. Anyone who comes. But those who actually come, and those who are actually engaging in bhajan, in service, with devotion, so we engage in the first step, we engage in activities that are under those rules and regulations, but that is only there to increase our devotion. Prabhupada said of Kartik, you'll come and offer candles every day. So is the ritual to offer candles? And then he said, this will increase your devotion. So the stricture or the regulation is you come and do this activity. You may not have any idea what I'm doing with this. I'm waving it around. I got to make it sure I look really good, in front of everybody. But it is to increase our devotion, because as we're looking, Krishna, as you are illuminated, you are the illumination of the entire universe. Nothing can illuminate you. But this piece, tiny illumination, which ultimately comes from you, I am offering back to you. Please, therefore, illuminate my heart so I may always see your illumination everywhere. And it's similar when you worship the Ganga or you worship the Yamuna, you take the Ganga water and you offer back, and it's the same. It's so. The devotees who choose that, who have chosen to do that, we're doing some activity, maybe under some regulation, but it is to increase the devotion. It is not to give Krishna a candle. Krishna needs no candle. He needs not 100 candles, 1,000,000 candles. He is the source of all candles. What is it? Source of all candles verse? Brahma Samhita? Yeah. It's there. Promise him, he gets it just as one candle is lit, many, but he is the source. He is the source. What need of candles is there? What need of our little offering? He's not hungry. He's not thirsty. He's not, what need is it? The need is for us to remember we are his bhaktas. And we, in our right position is Mai within Krishna, within that consciousness of Krishna. And that's the whole Krishna consciousness movement, is to regain our consciousness of Krishna. So this is a whole sidebar of coming around to, why did Balaram say no? Why did Balaram not fight? Because Krishna was going to fight on the side that he wanted. So ultimately it was for Krishna. Now I won't fight. I'm not going to fight because Krishna is on the other side, and I cannot do anything that is opposed to Krishna. I will give my sister to Arjuna. I will not fight. So then he comes upon this, so he leaves and he goes on pilgrimage, and then these are the last demons. The previous chapter, I think, were the last demons that Krishna killed. And I think towards the end of the 10th canto, Sukadeva Goswami goes a little out of chronology, but Shalva and that whole episode, those are the last demons that Krishna killed. And similarly, Balvala was the last demon that Balaram kills. So then all this time is going on. Krishna is taking the side of Arjuna in the battle of Kurukshetra, and Balaram is out on pilgrimage. And then Balaram hears that, there was destruction of 19, so it was 11 and 7, 18 Akshahinis of warriors have been destroyed. All death. So, let me go see. Is there anyone I know still alive? And there he comes upon this Jai Shri. Comes upon this scene that in itself is quite extraordinary. Everyone on Duryodhana's army, there are only 4 people who survived to this point. Duryodhana, Kritavarman, Ashwatthama, and Kripacharya. Kripacharya, Ashwatthama, and Kritavarman, they were hiding because they heard that the Pandavas were coming. So they were hiding. They went away. And Duryodhana was trying to recover from the wounds of battle. And so they came up, and there was a lot of words exchanged, a lot of insults, and but ultimately Yudhisthira made another gamble. Just as the whole thing happened from gambling, he made another gamble. He said, Duryodhana, if you can defeat any one of us, I will give you the whole kingdom. And you can choose whatever weapon you want. So Duryodhana thought, and then, you see Krishna, why did you do that again? Yudhisthira, you keep doing these silly things. Why do you do these things to give him this loophole? And so Duryodhana immediately thought, I have learned Gada, I have learned club fighting from Balaram, and I know I am the most accomplished at club fighting, and I'll choose Bhima because I hate him with the whole of my heart. I hate him from my very birth. I've hated him. And so this is the scene that Balaram walks in on. They're both standing with clubs, getting ready to go. And Balaram comes in again. He has affection for Duryodhana, and he knows Duryodhana's skill. And he says, well, Krishna, neither of you guys really need to go through this. Duryodhana is so skillful that there's no way he can be defeated. However, on the other hand, Bhima is so powerful that no matter how skillful and how many hits he gets, he won't be defeated. So let's not waste the time. Let's make a peace treaty at this point. So after all of this, after all the peace attempts and after the entire war, this is the last day, that day 18, the end of the 18th day of the Battle of Kurukshetra. And Balaram is trying to make peace once again. How many times has peace opportunities come to Duryodhana, but still nobody said anything. I think it was said there was silence. Everyone just returned Balaram's words with silence, meaning that they were so intent on this. And Bhima was raging, and all of his memories of Duryodhana's past atrocities were coming into his mind, and Duryodhana was just thinking, I hate him, I hate him, I hate him. And they just, okay. So Balaram didn't want to see, because he knew, he knew that I can't get involved because Krishna wanted his devotees. Chapyaham, he is in it, he's always thinking of the welfare of his devotees. So no matter what, even if you spent 100 Duryodanas against one Bhima and you tied Bhima's hands behind his back, that he would still win because Krishna is for his welfare. So it's quite astonishing. Balarama again, he goes, okay, I can't watch this because he's my friend. But ultimately, he does act in the right way. That this is what Krishna wants. I will do what Krishna wants. I will let this happen because this is what Krishna wants. Arjuna had to face a similar thing. That I don't want to kill my families. I don't want to see this whole destruction happen. I don't want to fight, but for Krishna, I will do it. And this is, so that these pastimes that we hear about from Bhagavatam, from Bhagavad Gita, from Mahabharata, these are all to, again, increase our attachment to Krishna. And so that we may think, we have to make discerning decisions throughout every day, every moment of our life. Well, will I do this or am I going to do that? Which way am I going to go here? Well, what is it going to be that will be most favorable for me to remember, hear about, chant about Krishna 24 hours a day? Well, maybe that may be our ultimate goal, but at least on it, how can it be favorable to my Krishna consciousness? Those are the things that we have to consider, learning from these pastimes of, well, what would, you know, I think there's a famous, what would Jesus do, right? Well, what would Arjuna do? What would Balaram do? So we can have that saying in our consciousness, in our chitta. Okay, we didn't cover the whole pilgrimage, but we're out of time. Any questions on the topic so far? Okay.
I understand why he didn't take any sides, but what is the significance of like Balaram going on pilgrimage? Like, what was he getting out of it?
Yeah, I think this is a recommendation by the sages. Oh, you've killed this demon, and so he said, well, I can't remember how Kalakanta translated it, but it's there that what is the recommendation for atonement? Atonement is you go to a holy place. So that's the whole nother topic. And if we can, yeah, I can't even touch upon it because I'll just go too. Yeah, I wouldn't be able to stop. So the idea of pilgrimage is twofold. If you're the Supreme Personality of Godhead, your is to create new places of pilgrimage. And then what happens in those places of pilgrimage? We go there because the Supreme Personality of Godhead or his devotees have gone there. And that's not it. That is still Saiva Gokura level. That is still on the basis of a cow or an ass that we go to. We're just going to places for something. But we go to hear from the persons. We go on pilgrimage to hear from saintly persons. And this so many places in the Bhagavatam, Vidura coming back, oh, the Tirtani, Kurvanti, Tirta Kurvanti, that you yourself, your personality, and why? Okay, so we can dissect this and bring it right back into Samoham. Why is Vidura a place of pilgrimage? Because because he's in Krishna and Krishna is in him. So wherever he goes, Krishna is there, Vrindavan is there, Mayapur Dham is there, everything is there. It's manifest in the pure devotee. So there's long description in the Mahabharata, there's actually a long description of this pilgrimage that Balaram took. And it goes to every place, and then he goes, he hears about it, and then what happens? Later, Lord Chaitanya goes on pilgrimage to go to these places that the Lord had gone, and the Lord had manifested in different pastimes and different things. And then later, Srila Prabhupada's disciples, they go on pilgrimage to Rajmandal Parikram, they're going to, so pilgrimage after pilgrimage after pilgrimage they build, but the focus again is always not the pilgrimage, not the bath, not the photo opportunity, but the opportunity to hear from a person. And again, I was going to go deeper into that subject, but I'm just going to read one song, but we're actually going to study this song in our next little Kalyana Kalpatru group. But this one song, Tirthapal Sadhu Sange Antaranga Shri Krishna Bhajan Manohar Jata Sadhu Tata Tirtha Stira Kori Nija Chitta Sadhu Sangha Kodo Nirantar. The real benefit of any place of pilgrimage is the company of the pure-hearted devotees of the Lord living there. Establishing intimate and friendly relations with such great souls, let your mind be captivated by performing the charming worship of Lord Krishna and their association. Sri Krishna Bhajan Manohar. Become captivated in Krishna when we go on pilgrimage. That should be the focus of pilgrimage. Be captivated. Actually, any place in the entire world. So now this goes into Tirtha, Kurvanti, Tirtani. Actually, any place in the entire world becomes a worshipful place of pilgrimage if the Lord's devotees are living there. Thus, you should immediately seek out such a place wherever you happen to be, and you should become fixed up in Krishna consciousness by constantly remaining in the company of such devotees, Koro Nirantara. We should constantly seek out those devotees. Therefore, we would be going on pilgrimage, and we would be getting association of someone who is Mai, Te Chapyam, that they are embodiments of Krishna, and Krishna is thinking of them. Okay, I answered all 3 topics in one. Anything else? Huh? Yeah? Okay. We will end here. Jai Srila Prabhupada ki jai.